In 1904, a woman in Japan picked up a pen, opened a notebook, and quietly invented something that would outlast every budgeting app, every financial self-help book, and every viral money tip the internet would eventually produce more than a century later. Her name was Hani Motoko. She was Japan's first female journalist, and what she created was not a spreadsheet, not a software program, not a complicated system with color-coded categories and subscription fees. It was a question. 4 of them, actually. And those 4 questions have helped generations of Japanese households do something that the average American household is currently failing at with remarkable consistency.
Here is where America stands financially right now. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the personal savings rate in the United States sits at roughly 4.6% of disposable income. That means out of every dollar an American earns after taxes, less than 5 cents gets saved. The long-term historical average for American savings since 1959 is 8.42%. We are saving nearly half of what we historically saved. And according to a 2025 survey by Empower, the median emergency savings for Americans is $600. Not $6,000, $600. 21% of Americans have zero emergency savings at all. None. Meanwhile, in Japan, research from the Family Income and Expenditure Survey puts certain Japanese household savings rates among salaried workers at 37.8%. Different measurement methodologies produce different exact figures, but the directional gap between American and Japanese savings behavior is not close. It is not a rounding error. It is a fundamentally different relationship with money built into daily life. And Kakeibo, pronounced Kakeibo, is a significant part of the reason why. The word itself translates directly as household financial ledger, but calling it a ledger is like calling surgery a nap. Technically not wrong, but completely missing what it actually is. Kakeibo is not a tracking tool. Tracking is passive. You already have a bank app that tracks your spending. You probably have not looked at it in 3 weeks. Kakeibo is a confrontation. It is a structured, intentional, monthly practice of sitting down with your money and having an honest conversation with yourself about what you are actually doing with the one resource in your life you can never get more of. Hani Motoko created it at a moment when Japan was undergoing rapid modernization and industrialization. Consumer culture was arriving, money was starting to move in new directions, and households were losing track of it. She published the method in a women's magazine because at the time, women managed household finances in Japan. And she understood that the person managing the money needed a system that connected the numbers to the behavior behind the numbers. Over 120 years later, that insight has never been more relevant. Because the financial crisis most Americans are experiencing is not an income crisis. The average American today earns more in real terms than at almost any point in history. It is a behavior crisis, a spending without awareness crisis. And that is exactly the problem Kakeibo was built to solve. Here is how it actually works. And pay close attention here because the simplicity is the whole point. At the beginning of every month, you sit down with a physical notebook, not an app, not a spreadsheet, a paper notebook with a pen, and you answer the first of Kakeibo's core questions. How much money do I have coming in this month? You write down your income after taxes, every source, the real number. Then you write down your fixed expenses, rent, insurance, subscriptions, loan payments, the things that are leaving your account whether you think about them or not. You subtract those from your income. Now here is the step that separates Kakeibo from every other budgeting method you have ever tried and abandoned. Before you do anything else, before you plan your spending, you write down how much you want to save this month. Not how much you hope you will have left over, how much you are committing to save as a non-negotiable line item before the rest of the month begins. This is what financial experts call paying yourself first, and Kakeibo baked it into the structure of the method in 1904, decades before any American personal finance book would popularize that phrase. Whatever remains after your fixed expenses and your savings commitment is your spending money for the month. That is the number you live on, not your income. Not your income minus what you felt like spending, what is left after you have already honored your financial future. Throughout the month, every single expense gets written down by hand. Every coffee, every ride share, every online purchase, every dinner. Not typed, handwritten. This sounds annoying. That reaction is the point. Research from multiple studies on the neuroscience of learning shows that handwriting activates different and more extensive neural pathways than typing. Writing things down by hand increases memory retention by up to 40%.
When you physically write the number $23 after buying something you didn't plan to buy, your brain registers that transaction differently than when it disappears into a digital ledger. The physical friction of the act creates awareness that passive digital tracking simply cannot replicate. One report on Kakeibo practice notes that handwriting is a meditative, reflective process. It slows you down at the exact moment when slowing down matters most, when money is leaving your hands. Kakeibo organizes all of this spending into 4 categories, and only 4: needs, wants, culture, and unexpected. Needs is exactly what it sounds like: groceries, utilities, transportation, medicine, the things life requires. Wants is everything that makes life enjoyable but that you could technically survive without: dining out, new clothes, entertainment, subscriptions. Culture is a category that most American budgeting systems do not have, and its absence says something important about how we think about money. Culture covers books, concerts, museum visits, experiences that educate or expand you. Kakeibo deliberately separates these from wants because it treats intellectual and cultural enrichment as a distinct category of human necessity, not a luxury to be cut when money gets tight, but a legitimate part of a fully lived life. Unexpected is the honest category: car repairs, medical bills, a gift you forgot to plan for, the expenses that always show up and that most people have no room for because they never budgeted for them. Kakeibo forces you to see how much of your life is actually in this category, which over time reduces how much lands here as you start planning for the things that keep showing up. At the end of every month, Kakeibo brings you to the most powerful part of the entire system: the reflection. And this is where the method moves from a financial tool to something closer to a philosophical practice. You sit down with your notebook and you answer 4 questions, in writing, by hand. How much money did I have available this month? How much money did I actually spend? How much money did I save? And the 4th question, the one that changes the game entirely: how can I improve next month? Most budgeting systems stop at question 3. They give you the numbers and leave you to draw your own conclusions. Kakeibo requires a written answer to question 4 because it understands something about human behavior that most financial apps ignore completely. The numbers alone do not produce change. Reflection produces change. The act of writing down your own honest answer to why your spending looked the way it did, what triggered the purchases you regret, what felt genuinely worth it, and what felt like noise. That process builds the self-awareness that makes lasting financial change possible. Devotees of Kakeibo report being able to save 35% on monthly expenses. The method is not magic. It does not create money that does not exist. What it creates is clarity. And clarity in personal finance is worth more than any investment tip, any interest rate, any market timing strategy you will ever encounter. Here is why this matters specifically in 2025 and 2026 in America. The financial environment we are currently living in is designed to extract money from you faster than at any point in human history. One-click purchasing, buy now, pay later services that hide the true cost of spending behind the illusion of 4 small payments, subscription models engineered to be forgotten rather than canceled, social media that converts your attention directly into spending impulses in real time. Every single friction point between you and a purchase has been systematically eliminated by industries that profit from your impulsiveness. Kakeibo is the deliberate reintroduction of friction. It is the choice to slow down and make money visible again, to bring what is happening in your finances out of the background and into your own handwriting, on paper, in your own language, where you cannot look away from it. The Japanese cultural relationship with money that Hani Motoko was drawing from when she created this method includes something that the American financial culture generally does not: the idea that money is not just a number. It carries intention, it carries meaning. The Japanese concept of money as something that deserves careful, respectful, deliberate handling is embedded in Kakeibo's entire architecture. You are not just balancing a budget, you are deciding, consciously, what kind of life you are choosing to buy with the limited resource of your income. The reason this 120-year-old method from a women's magazine in Meiji-era Japan is going viral among people in their 20s and 30s across America right now is not nostalgia. It is not aesthetic. It is not because people want to be charming and analog. It is because it works. And it works in a way that no app has managed to replicate because apps are built on the assumption that convenience is always better. Kakeibo is built on the opposing assumption that some things in life are worth doing slowly, deliberately, and with your own hand because the act of doing them that way is itself what produces the result. result. You do not need a perfect income to use Kakeibo. You do not need a financial advisor or a complex system or a premium subscription. You need a notebook, a pen, and the willingness to answer 4 honest questions at the beginning and end of every month. That is the whole secret. It was never more complicated than that. And somehow, in a world that has invented 10,000 ways to manage money, the thing that keeps working is the thing a Japanese journalist figured out in 1904 when she decided that the most radical financial act a person could perform was simply to pay attention.